can I use Fiverr or Upwork to find a developer?
Good question. And that's one that we get a lot and we see a lot. The answer is it depends. It depends on the project. It depends on the scope. It depends on what your needs are. Fiverr and Upwork and all these freelance platforms can be a really great resource, especially for individuals looking to get small projects done. I find that Fiverr and Upwork are really good resources for things like graphic projects, like logos, even some simple websites. But really, what all those things have in common is simple one-off projects, right?
Right.
Not long-term recurring things. And I think when it comes to development, like true development, and software development, whether that be web or app or whatever it may be. Um, I don't necessarily recommend those platforms, and the reason for that is when you're on those platforms, you are effectively looking for freelancers. And the reason that you're probably doing that is because you're looking things at a slightly discounted rate. Now, nowadays, it really is only slightly discounted. It's not that
Right.
much cheaper than what you're going to find with a stateside development team, even like us. And but what you are going to find is there will likely be a lack of communication and professionalism, and that's not across the board. You just
Right.
usually when it's an individual or it's an individual with a team hiding behind them, you're just not going to get the level of service that you're going to get from a for lack of a better way of saying it, a legitimate team. Um, and that's best case scenario. Worst case scenario is you're going to end up running in circles. I mean, where a lot of people find comfort in Upwork and Fiverr is that there's a degree of guarantee that you have, um, because they're on those platforms and they will get kicked
Mhm.
off of those platforms if they just take your money and run. That's just like
Right.
that's not something that's going to happen in all likelihood. But the way that they can digitally take your money and run is sort of you know uh, run up timelines and sort of what do you call it? Carrot on a stick with you, sort of string you along. That's what I was looking for. They can kind of string you along, and then before you know it, you really don't actually have anything. You've paid them on an hourly rate. Um, they've got timesheets to prove it, but at the end of it, you just don't have either you don't have what you were looking for, or you don't have anything at all. Um, and so that is the risk when you're dealing with a platform like that. Even if they have reviews, even if they, whenever you're dealing with a long term project, people on these platforms generally don't have longevity in mind. They have very much in out, get what you need done, and that's just something you need to keep in mind.
Yeah. And I think the cases that we've come across where things do go south, Joe, it's not really that the guys on Fiverr or freelancers or whoever would fit into that other category are looking to get people, right? I think the most common thing, Joe, that we see is it just got in over their heads, right? It was an exciting
Yes,
project, big numbers, and they had full, confidence in
intention.
themselves.
Yeah.
They, right, and it
Hmm.
just simply got out of hand. So from our
I see
perspective, yeah,
I see that all the time. I mean, across the
right,
board with even freelancers that are not necessarily found on Upwork that are recommended. I mean, I see it with one of my clients and one of my other companies right now. He's really struggling because he's got this a really expensive freelancer and he's not getting what he needs because this guy has gotten in over his head, and he's gone from communicating daily to communicating very, very rarely because he is really struggling with this project, and he wants to, this developer wants to do it, he wants to, but
right.
he is himself stuck. And that is the kind of scary thing when you're dealing with individual developers,
Scary
that
is
that
the
can
right
happen.
word too, because what do you? It's again, it's not malintent. No one wanted to do this. They just you got 24 hours in a day, man. At the
Hmm.
end of the day, that's what you have, and
Hmm.
that's also saying that you're not sleeping, and that's the only project that you have right at that
Right.
point. So, yeah, and again, not to harp too hard on those guys. So, I got a quick question. Um, do you see potentially like a threshold where you would even consider Fiverr, whether that be financially or like scale and scope of the work? Maybe it's an hours basis. I have my own ideas, but
Again, I mean, from my perspective, it's got to be a simple and clear scope that is sort of like kind of not in and out, but it's got to be something that is open and shut, right?
yeah,
Where this is the clear scope. Here's the task list that I need you to do. What is it going to cost me to do this? Um, so there's that. I don't know that there's a financial threshold necessarily, but I would not personally pay anyone on Fiverr or Upwork more than a couple $100 at a time at those milestones. And that is one of the good things about the platform is that you can milestone work out. You
right.
just got to ensure that you're actually getting what that you're actually getting sort of proof during those milestones.
I think that's the point I had in my head. When you're going on Fiverr, you're actually creating two jobs. One for whoever you're getting, but congratulations, you are now project manager.
Right,
So,
right.
right, I guess my answer to that question would be, um, what is your ability to commit yourself and your time as an entrepreneur to managing this project? Because it is a necessity. It's not a maybe. You have to have that time to be able
Yeah.
to keep track of that. Right at the end of the day.
If you want to get what you want to get out of it, right?
Right,
If this
right,
is
right,
and
right. Yeah,
that's why I say things like logos and things that are relatively low cost and
sure.
easy. You have the ability to kind of like eat that cost if things didn't go according to plan.
Right.
Whereas a much bigger project with a much longer timeline, man, if you're not all over that, playing project manager
You
and
better
really
be.
being very diligent. And again, most times people are using foreign work on Upwork and Fiverr, which again is there's no problem with that. We have our team is in India, but we are a company that is used to operating within the Indian time zones. You are probably not. And the 10 and a
Right.
half hour difference, I promise you, is not something that you just kind of whatever. Like
When
it
those
is.
when those updates start rolling in at 2
Ooh,
a.m., Joe.
right. It can be difficult to stay on top of. And if
Yeah,
you're not doing it at scale the way that we are, it can be really difficult to manage that.
yeah, yeah. And just to hit on that quickly, we have a team and then a team that manages the teams.
Right.
So to give you an idea of what that takes manpower and focus wise, we have a team that manages the teams. So yeah, it's I think you said it perfectly, man. There are absolutely use cases for it, but you really gotta think about your own time and financial exposure.
Hmm.
If you're gonna go that route.